Epstein elites, secret society, masked ball, 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 Baal, B-A apostrophe A-L, rituals. We hear talk of cannibalism, blood, adrenochrome, pizza, grape, soda, temples. Did you like the torture video? Um, all this shit about powerful cabals of wealthy men, they're trafficking children, the sex abuse, the conspiracy, and Kubrick. When you talk about these things and you talk about cinema, it's always Kubrick. Ever since 2001, ever since the moon landing or not the moon landing, depending on your take, it's always Kubrick. For us, in episode 293 on The Shining, we talked about Kubrick conspiracy theories in the documentary Room 237. In 2021, we talked about Eyes Wide Shut. We did that in episode 361. We talked about Kubrick. We talked about production and history and lore and themes and dreams and symbolism, masks, Hollywood Babylon, all of that. Tonight, we return to it, but through the lens of Epstein, Kubrick, and conspiracy. And Rick, in 2021, back then when we talked about it, you said, interestingly, you said that you didn't want to watch this film for another 5 years. That was in 2021. It was at the end, granted, but here we are in 2026. So now, having just watched it, I ask, when you watch Eyes Wide Shut now, with all the craziness and widespread abuses that we're seeing with Epstein and this cabal of elites, the abuses, the high level involvement, the multinational level in areas of royalty, government, politics, espionage, finance, technology, academia with Chomsky, entertainment. When the masks are coming off and when many are still on, Rick, what do you see?
I see a film that is compromised, not in the manner of Kubrick dying 3 days or 3 or 4 days after turning in his final cut. I see a film that, if there was a desire to shine a light in the dark places and expose a secret society, it really doesn't go far enough, and it doesn't expose things the way I would have liked. And the film itself, it really just it plays in the shallow end. It's not as deep as it wants to be perceived. Maybe that's a matter of the perception. At least is maybe the perception is a matter of this kind of subject matter doesn't get enough attention paid to it in cinematic art. And now with the U.S. and the world, for the most part, dealing with the Epstein controversy, Epstein Island, Bill Clinton, Donald Trump, Prince Andrew, and the like. And by the time this airs in 2 or 3 days, who knows what else might come out? Not to mention what exactly is being suppressed, but I find it a difficult film because I believe it dances around a more serious subject and turns it into I don't know if we talked about this in the last episode. It turns it into nothing more than the struggles of a problematic marriage, both on screen and off. I don't take the film as seriously as it wants to be taken because I really don't think it takes the swings that are necessary for it to be a really biting take on this subject matter. Whatever Kubrick is going for in this film, the reality of it is so much worse. And as I was watching it last night, this 2 hour and I don't know what, 30 minute experience, I realized that there was only one scene that really approached the reality and the ugliness of the 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 subject matter, and it was Sidney Pollack giving his speech at the end. It was the only moment where
with the
I
pool
felt
table.
with the pool table. Yes, it was the only moment in the film where I felt here's the marrow. Here is really what this film should have been focused on.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, it's a huge canvas that is focused on the disintegration of a marriage. You want a disintegration of a marriage? Watch Bergman's Scenes from a Marriage. That's a brilliant film about the disintegration of a marriage. This is not that. I think this is an overrated film. I can't remember what I said about this film, but I think time. Maybe it was a great film at one point, but I think time has peeled back the layers to reveal that there's almost nothing here. Or at least what should be there is only a perfunctory kind of just like, oh yeah, there's an evil society of people who engage in their riches and their powers by victimizing people. I felt, to be honest, I felt insulted by this movie. It was too fucking basic. It was too simple, and I think Kubrick was a better filmmaker than that. But how are you going to release something like that through a major studio and do it the justice that the subject matter deserves? That's my take on it.
Yeah. I mean, the you can have Roger Avery is going to say, because he came out on that Rogan thing is getting a lot of play. I don't know if you've seen it or heard it, but
I saw something about an AI thing. Oh, you know what? I was gonna bring that up later in the episode, but yeah, go ahead. Let's jump into it right now.
Well, either let me just say this, and then let's say something else, and then we can go back to it. I just want to bring up like the reason, because I want to get into more specific conspiracy shit like after, but they're gonna say, people like that are gonna say, well, yeah, because they killed him, that's why he can't bring it out the way he wanted to, because blah blah blah. And for those of you listening, if you want to listen to our original talk, which really covers the production and symbolism and more of it just as a general film, episode 361. This is specific to this, and I think you're nailing it. I agree with you in terms of through the lens of this, what we're looking at now in Epstein, with the idea of like people say Eyes Wide Shut is a documentary.
Yeah.
When they connect it to this. People, you say, well, what's the pivotal scene of the film? And people, I think, most of the chatter and most of the attention goes to the masked ball scene.
The orgy, yeah.
The orgy and the scene before, which is the scene that people describe as a ritual. Whereas, like, the fucking scariest scene is the pool table scene. What you're describing. So my first take is word of caution to those of us who are treading these waters of conspiracy and film and symbolism and all that. Number one, conspiracies exist. Collusion, plots, the confluence of interests, intelligence projects, counterintelligence plots, those things exist. So I say question the official narrative when we hear about a lot of shit. At the same time, I say question the counter narrative. Don't, follow the money, not always the mythology. Not always the tits and ass. And beware of mythologizing all too human abuses and atrocities. And the reason I'm not using tits and ass lightly because I'm not minimizing these abuses. I'm not minimizing the sexual violence and all of that. The thing is that what happens is we sensationalize, and the media starts to sensationalize, and it focuses only on one aspect of abuse, and these things are tied to the physical in terms of bodies and reducing human beings to just body parts, whether metaphorically or actually chopping people up or however you want to describe it. It's also tied to finance and power and knowledge and information. And for example, von Clausewitz, this comes up in Crimson Tide as a quote. Von Clausewitz wrote that war is the continuation of politics by other means. For this, I say ritual, sex, abuse, or ritual with quotes, or at least the appearance of ritual, sex, and abuse are also continuations of politics by other means. And I think that's what we're seeing with Epstein, and I think that's what you're seeing in this film. If that's a microcosm of this Epstein phenomenon, I see a class dynamic with abuses built on and into systems of power. But what ends up happening is that people like us that are, the masses, those of us who are at the bottom of the power structure, we start arguing about symbols instead of confronting the systems.
Yeah.
So you start to say, well, the masked ball scene is actually a ritual. And remember in in Metropolis, it's the thing of Moloch. It's the machine becomes a metaphor, a reference for Moloch, which is this pagan Near Eastern deity that you would sacrifice to it. So then they start to say, well, this is a ritual to Moloch, or this is a ritual to Baal, or this is Luciferian, or this is satanic, and we see that we're seeing people perceiving that certain aspects of conspiracies are being confirmed in the files because there is a cabal, there are powerful people engaged in this stuff, and because they see one aspect of something being confirmed, now they think that all conspiracies are being confirmed. And you see people online with their chat GPT generated fucking scripts of this kind of like revived satanic panic. They're framing the abuses in a good versus evil construct. I don't know if you've seen that, or those of you listening, instead of looking at it from an insider outsider dynamic of like, okay, these are the elites that are doing whatever the fuck they're doing, like, again, stop focusing on fucking satanic pedophiles. Focus on elite pedophiles. The satanic part, be careful because now you're just buying into a fucking Christian frame. And it's pulling you away from following the money. And it's pulling you away from, these are all too human atrocities. Don't make it into the devil is pulling the strings. It's like, no, motherfucker, like a rich human is pulling the strings. They eat babies, and all of that could be true. They're cannibals. They worship the devil. I don't know that they worship the devil. I know that they worship power and wealth. I know that. I don't know if these people believe in the devil. I know that they believe in power and wealth, and they use it. So there's that. There's the the element of ritual, it goes back to what we talked about with Salo. I see the aesthetics of ritual. I see theater and drama, and I see cosplay. Even in authentic occultism, for example, in ceremonial magic, practiced by these secret societies from before, it's all the regalia, the pomp, the props. It's not, those groups weren't even satanic, but all the stuff that they were doing, a lot of it was a show of rank and disposable income needed to appoint the apartments and the chambers, and it was a display of power and wealth, insider status, initiation and secrecy being all of that. So I see aesthetics of ritual, even in with the Nazis, like Hess, who was an actual occultist. I think he's the exception. The rest of it is just, it's a show of power. It's as much as the Super Bowl or football is a ritual. I think a lot of these things are rituals. Birthday parties are rituals. Certain the Pledge of Allegiance and all that stuff, those are political rituals. And I think this stuff ends up being more compromat, subjugating yourself to a larger group, humiliation at times. We're gonna cosplay. We're gonna LARP. We're gonna live action role play before we fuck, and when we all fuck, yeah, we're gonna have a good time. You're gonna have the best prostitutes and the best trafficked people and men and women and children and whatever, because we're rich and we're bored and we can do whatever the fuck we want. And by the way, whether you know this or not, I have cameras everywhere, and so now, like, you're committed to this, you're in, and sure, I have pictures of you fucking a pig, or I have pictures of you holding a skull, or eating a baby, perhaps. I don't know. But the point is, like, we're not doing it because whatever. I mean, like, we can do it. So fuck it. So there's that. The Pizzagate shit. There, you do see the code. You do see that language in these emails. But what it looks like is like, it looks like, and I don't know if you're familiar with this, it looks like it was a fucking psyop, because Epstein and the dude, the 4chan head, talked. And after they talked, the 4chan dude basically, it seems like, created Pizzagate and QAnon. They started on 4chan, and it looked like basically a tactic that was used to deflect attention away from themselves or from Epstein and his shit, and project it onto Democrats, even though it was both Democrats and Republicans that were involved in this shit. Bill Clinton's deep in those fucking files.
Yeah.
It crossed political party lines. And it was a propaganda tool based on elements of truth that was basically used to hide. It was used by the ones committing the crimes to hide. It was deflection, projection, half-truths. So it's like, wow, like that it's a psyop. It's disinformation, counterintelligence shit. You're hearing now too a lot of stuff, and you hear this with criticisms of Israel as well, where people start to mix the policies of a country with a group of people. And so people who are like supposedly well-intentioned, they start to use basically Nazi and neo-Nazi bullshit, memes and stuff like that, where they're using shit, well, the Jews. This kind of shit was used against women to call them witches. This is the kind of shit that was used against Haitians to say that they ate pets. So the Jews killed Jesus. The Jews rule the world. The globalists, so George Soros, the Rothschilds, all that. Look, the Rothschilds are a thing. They're like the Medici. In fucking Florence, the Medici were a rich and powerful, fucking greedy-ass, influential, crooked-ass family. Those families exist. I see a lot of people say they talk about the Medici in those kind of terms, but at the same time, it's not the same as when people like the Rothschilds, because there's a Jewish element to it and there's a racist element to it. There's a tinge of that. So look, Epstein, a lot of shit that you see in the files, it seems like he was a Jewish supremacist. He talks about non-Jews, the goy, and all that. That that's a thing. Israel is a state committing crimes against humanity. That is a thing. Um, my shit is like, we need to be very careful to not accept everything hook, line, and sinker, because it's like, who benefits from the narratives of the language that we're using, and who created that narrative? Who created that? So it's like, if you're into conspiracy theory, be careful what conspiracies you buy into, and be careful what sub conspiracies you buy into, because it's kind of like some of these conspiracies are fucking white supremacist shit when you purport to be against that. Not you, but you know what I'm saying.
I know exactly what you're saying, yeah.
So there's a lot of shit that we need to be careful about, and going forward for the rest of our fucking lives, because it's worse than fucking. This is way worse than it's real because I saw it on TV, or it's real because I read it in the newspaper. Remember those? Now it's like fucking. I thought it was my mom calling me because it's her voice, and I she got kidnapped, and now I gave away all my money. Like, or I saw it. I saw Obama say that, and it's like, no, motherfucker, you saw Obama transform into Arnold Schwarzenegger, like in front of you with AI, or even the idea of, is it really even AI? Like the idea of an artificial intelligence versus a language model, those are two different things. So even when we talk about things not being real, we say, oh, fake news. That's fake news. It might be fake news, but who uses that term fake news the most?
Yeah.
One of the most fake news motherfuckers of all, who's Donald Trump himself. So you're quoting Donald Trump talking about fake news, but now you're perpetrating. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's like we need to be careful and not necessarily get caught up in the masked ball, when we need to be looking at the horrors of the fucking backroom pool table conversation, like you said, where it's kind of like, she was a hooker,
Mm.
you know.
Yeah.
It this movie looks very quaint. When you compare it to the shit that we just, the drip drop of what we've seen with
Well,
these files.
well, let me tell you why everything you just said is bullshit. Because this fucking movie reduces it to the insecurities of a fucking married couple, and the relief they find at the end when the woman realizes all we got to do is fuck to make this better. That's
Well,
how
I mean,
stupid
that's
this fucking movie is. And it's insulting. And it's insulting from a great filmmaker for it to be like that, you know? And it's because I agree with everything you just said. But everything you just said is bullshit based on this fucking movie that
fake news.
ignores it, that diminishes it, that dismisses it, that doesn't look at that is unwilling to dig deep into that world, and in fact is insulting because there's a certain point where there is one moment of child trafficking that is played for fucking laughs. And I know it's played for laughs because it is such a ridiculous scene that you're going to giggle uncontrollably, and it also is in keeping with some of Kubrick's sense of humor in his relationship to other films that he's considered uh what did he said there was I can't remember a film he said that he thought was funny, that Lily Sobieski film where she's in the room with a couple of Japanese businessmen, and
Oh, you mean the scene? The scene in this
that
film,
scene,
yeah.
yeah. And then later on when the father offers her up, um you can't just make that a fucking throwaway and not address it as a bigger thematic problem in the film, unless it's to
You all,
say that this is shit that exists all around us and we
yes,
ignore it to a
yeah,
degree, which is
yeah.
yes, but that's not the angle that this film is going for. This film is trying to be risque with these scenes of this ballroom, these naked women with perfect tits, um, and this whole idea of an underground society that embraces and exploits power, but also as a means of sexual gratification. I'm disgusted by this film because, not because of any kind of prudish or prurient interests, but because it proclaims to be something more than what it is. It it's it's putting up a facade of actually caring about the crimes that it's depicting. And let's be honest about something. Epstein was this might be 2026, and Epstein might have supposedly killed himself when? 2021? How long ago was that?
19. I don't remember
Was it
exactly. I mean,
2019? Okay, I was still in LA. All right, so we're talking 7 years after the fact of that we're finally at least opening the envelope on that and realizing that the envelope is empty
yeah, 19.
because because it's still in the vaults. But this was shit that was happening back in the 90s. This film was made in 1999. So all of the parties present in this production were aware of it, Epstein. They were aware of the island. They were aware of the goings on. Um, if you want to talk to me about how brave it is for Stanley Kubrick to take on this subject matter and the possibility that he was murdered because of it, I say fuck you. That's not the case. This is a chicken shit film that doesn't go far enough to expose something that is real. Um, it dances with it without really trying to understand it, or at least trying to present it in such a way that we as the American public as well as the international public that embrace the film would be able to say, hey, wait a minute, let's start digging into these motherfuckers. Let's find out what Bilderberg is about. Let's find out what the Meadows is. Let's find out, you know, hey, let's if these rich cocksuckers are meeting up triannually or whenever the fuck they do this to discuss how is it possible that we're not able to go in there and find out when the richest people in the world are able to meet up. You think that's just because they need to get away from the strains of running the world? No, it's because that they're figuring out different and better ways to fuck us over at any given moment. This is the more I think about it, and you do this to me all the fucking time. You really piss me off because now you're taking me down this road where I didn't even know how pissed off I was until I started talking to you about this fucking movie. So thank you for that.
That's what I try to do. This is what I'm trying to do with we're the fucking Ludovico fucking to bring Kubrick back into it from another angle is like we're that technique where we're prying the eyes open and the ears open and trying to fucking see something through this violence and this fucking sexuality and this sensationalism of cinema.
Wasn't there another movie about 10 years ago that did this to me where you and I got into it about that and we were like, fucking didn't even see it. It's sometimes this is the subliminal shit. This is the shit that gets into the subconscious and you don't even know it until you're forced to bring it out and realize how badly this shit has fucked with you. Maybe it's because maybe it's a level of self-preservation and knowing. I was talking to somebody about the Trump era politics and what we're going through right now, and where everybody else is shocked by ICE and the tariffs and Epstein. I'm sitting here going, I'm not trying to pat myself on the back being some kind of enlightened individual. What I'm saying is everything that is happening now just validates everything that I theorized was happening. And
Yeah,
that does
I
not
mean,
make me happy. That fucking pisses me off.
yeah, I mean, we're in a state of like we're. I think we can be both shocked but still not surprised. Um, you know what I mean? Like, it's still fucking outrageous and it's still infuriating and horrifying and disgusting. All of this, all of these different aspects, but this is shit that like we've heard murmurs about shit like this, and there have been different on the one side, fucking these things like, and in the other episode, I was like, oh, the Pizzagate thing, and I was like, these crazy allegations, because even I sometimes try to be very like moderate in my kind of approach, because I don't want to. First of all, I'm not that person, but I also don't want to veer into, oh, this is the guy with the, okay, put your tinfoil on. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Put your tinfoil hat on, and now reduce yourself to not being taken seriously. That's one extreme. There's also the side where you overcorrect away from that.
Mm-hmm.
But the true middle, I think, is to be, look, there are conspiracies. We just need to be careful about fucking what we fucking believe. That's not that too much to ask of ourselves. Um, the these okay, specifically, like you talked about, like what people knew. I don't know that. I think there might have been a report that was filed with the FBI in the '90s, but I don't think this story really broke until the early to like mid 2000s.
No, 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 no. I'm not talking about the story breaking. I'm talking about these are people in powerful positions who would
Oh
have
yeah,
known
of
this
course.
shit existed. And
Well, even in Hollywood,
yeah,
even stories of the history of Hollywood, which we've talked about,
yeah, yeah.
is rife with it. So this is stuff that Kubrick knew, and
Hmm.
I, I don't know to what degree he would have known, but he would have heard about at least these things.
Yes.
And I mean, if we just break down the specific things in the film, separate from the stuff that goes to the marriage, and the insecurities and the fantasies and the wanting to commit infidelity or dreaming of it or whatever it is that whatever dynamic that is happening between the Tom Cruise character and the Nicole Kidman character, and them being married and all that. Separate all that. If we just look at those points, and before we do that, it's kind of like the film tends it's doing what the media basically ends up doing is it moves away from like the so-called like boring shit and goes right to the stuff that's like the most titillating stuff, which is, yeah, you want to hear about, not because you're endorsing. I'm just saying, like, this is the why human beings love gossip, and we don't want to hear in the order of like details about scandal and gossip. We want to hear about the sex and the violence first. Then let's hear about how they embezzle the money. But we don't want to sit there and look at receipts, and we don't want to look at the bank account numbers and look. I mean, we'll do it. We want to hear that too. But if it's like, well, I want to see pictures of so and so compromised, or I want to, is there a smoking gun, or is there blood on the person's hands? Like, you want to see that first because human beings are fucked up. So what happens is we end up getting a focus on a lot of sex and less of the focus on adult conversation about I mean, it's not dull in the context of like someone being afraid for their lives now because they fucking discovered this cabal or whatever in a compromised way. But it with like with Salon. Salon is built up on this reputation of depravity and all this shit because I mean, and that is there, but it's very bureaucratic. The fucking violence. It's very bureaucratic. The sex. It's very, and it's all built on a system of power, and it's built on the actions of collaborators. And we don't want to think about that. We just want to think about the craziest shit. Um, if we're talking about aliens, like, we want to talk about anal probes. We don't want to talk about how much do they pay the aliens that fucking are sent out as scouts out here, or putting them into that capitalist bullshit. It's like, is that alien getting overtime? Like, is that alien part of a union? How well is that?
I
Does
get you.
that
Yeah.
alien want to be here? We're not worried about that. Like, we're not worried about stuff that seems bureaucratic and mundane. But the stuff that's bureaucratic and mundane is like, it leads to the stuff that is ultimately them saying that Epstein ordered all this fucking sulfuric acid or whatever the fuck he ordered.
Yeah.
That's something that's mundane when it's like, put in a work order, put in a fucking thing for this stuff, and then it's like, oh fuck, is it for the pool or is it for the dissolved bodies, right? Um, it's that. If we look at the points of, oh, what I was gonna say even before that, like, yeah, we end up commercial becoming like, it's commercialized. Now we're in a fucking store at the end of the movie. We're in a toy store, and well, let's what we need to do is fuck. Um, and all this other stuff kind of gets glossed over, like you said, and it gets reduced to this couple dynamic, and it gets reduced to how much of this was in our head, how much of this was just kind of background noise to our problems, and that's what we do. We just kind of like, okay, well, I know that this is going on. Like, I know that people are being killed and abducted in the streets and shit like that. But it's kind of like, yeah, but like, it's Christmas. I gotta fucking buy presents, and I gotta like, my wife and I are having some like issues and stuff, and it's not my problem. It's not my fucking problem. That's where it becomes versus a movie about fixers and blackmail, compromise, and consequences, and um, dead women, sex workers, and we don't. I mean, like, um, disobedience and fucking threats, and that's what this film is about. Behind all that stuff, you've got a lavish party with a rich client of a doctor, a naked woman OD'd in the bathroom. The doctor's called in, he checks it out, and he knows he has to keep this quiet. Keep it quiet. Okay, what if she had been dead? Well, listen, Bill, this can't come out, etc. So now you have this person in the position of being a fixer. He's a contractor, he's an employee. And in these systems of power and abuse, they operate because people within the system are just doing their jobs. They look the other way, they clean up the mess, they get their paycheck, and life goes on for them. The masked ball. Sex workers potentially trafficked. They're interchangeable, they're disposable, they literally don't have faces. Secrecy, layers of security, threats of violence, these aesthetic displays of power. it's how much of that is like blackmail versus and an insider outsider thing versus like, oh, this person's there's fucking backwards sounding music, so now it's satanic. Um, like what's fucking scarier? Do you know what I mean? Um,
Sure.
the the Sidney Pollack scene, the controlling interestingly enough, you had mentioned in the last episode, and this put a whole other fucking spin on it. You had mentioned that Kubrick considered casting none other than fucking Woody Allen in that scene.
No, Woody Allen. Okay, when he was considering making this film in the 70s,
Who was?
Kubrick.
Okay.
In the 70s or the 80s, he wanted to take a more comical approach to it and make it like a comic, like sexual kind of weird romp, which I that's one of the things I don't understand about Kubrick, how you could, well, I guess looking at Strange Love versus Failsafe, it kind of makes sense. But he wanted Woody Allen as the Tom Cruise character.
Oh, as the Tom. Oh, I was thinking that you had meant that he wanted him as the Sidney Pollack character.
No.
I mean, either way, it's fucked up.
It's fucked up. He considered when it was a comic approach to it, he was considering Steve Martin or Woody Allen. Okay,
That's fucked up.
That's fucked up. When he started to think about it in the 90s, and he wanted to go back to the project because Kubrick had a lot of projects that were never realized, and
right.
And especially with his perfectionism and his abusive nature, as far as I'm concerned about dealing with his actors, which is something I want to get into in a minute before we finish up. But he wanted a married couple. And the married couple he originally was considering Alec Baldwin and Kim Basinger, which I think would have made for a much better movie.
I think so too.
Yeah, I think whatever Basinger lacks as a performer, Alec Baldwin would have made up for, and the focus is on his character anyway. He considered Bruce Willis and Demi Moore, which one I think would have been hugely problematic and a big mistake. But he settled on Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman, because let's face it, Tom Cruise, probably the biggest star that has ever been, I think, possibly. And I think a lot of his performance is my God, I think he's horrible in this film. I think he's really bad. I think it's I
mean, Richard Burton and Elizabeth Taylor were busy,
Yeah, death got in the way of that one. But he wanted the dynamic of a couple. Originally in this film, the doctor was Harvey Keitel.
Right. Yes.
And Harvey Keitel walked off the set. He was either fired or walked off the set, and I think Keitel walked off the set, pissed off. But I don't think Keitel could have delivered the performance that Pollack delivers. Keitel has a very dangerous quality to him in any performance that he's in. I don't think I've ever seen a performance of Keitel where I thought, yeah, I wish he were my dad. You know what I mean? I think Keitel is always just like, this guy is fucking nuts. But Pollack has that. There's a sweetness to him. There's a goodness to him. So
he just seems very normal.
Yeah,
just a normal man.
Exactly. So when
happens to be rich and fucking powerful,
happens to be rich, and then you see the hooker scene in the beginning, and the way he so matter-of-factly presents the reality of the story to Bill, the Tom Cruise character. That was the thing that I don't think I don't know of another actor that could have delivered that. Paul Newman, maybe. Paul Newman could have.
Yeah, I mean, Paul Newman would have given it like a white man's burden.
Mm-hmm.
He would have been like, "Hey, like, I'm handsome, I'm rich. What can I say? This it's fucked up, but this is just the way it is." and you just got to roll with the punches, kid. You know,
Yeah.
um, it's someone like a Robert Redford or a
Hmm.
fucking someone would have given it that. Pollock does just have this kind of um, it's like I don't want to have to tell you this.
Hmm.
I didn't want to do this. I don't want to embarrass you. I don't want to scare you. But you need to understand you're way the fuck over your head. Um,
Yeah.
and you know it's not. Don't. I'm gonna tell you that, but don't jump to conclusions.
Hmm.
Everything's okay. I'll buy you the fuck you want. You want this some scotch or you want a case?
Yeah. 25-year-old
Um,
scotch. It's, we've talked in the past, and I've told you, and I stand by my 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 inability, well, not an inability, my the way I dislike referring to a character as evil or
right.
a person
Yes.
as evil. I don't like to do that because it I've explained it in the past where it puts it on a more uh, um,
Supernatural.
exactly, a supernatural take on it. It removes the humanity from it. But if a character can be considered evil in the sense of human beings being able to have that um, narcissistic, sociopathic edge that allows them to behave in a way that disregards their fellow human being. That is Sidney Pollack in this film.
When he
Because
touches his shoulders,
oh my god, that's fucking yes, yeah,
and it's just kind of like, don't fucking touch me, dude. Like, and he's almost fatherly, but it's just kind of like it's just all kinds of shit.
yeah.
It yeah, it's scary.
The thing about the film, as much as I dislike the film, and as much as I think it's an overrated, um, badly produced film, the film is worth it for that one scene. The entire film um, is problematic for me. I'm rolling my eyes. I'm pissed off. I'm spitting at the screen because and part of that is just a filmmaker that I respect doing something that is I think simplistic and but that's elevating your heroes to something that they're not. That's not his fault. That's everybody fucks up. But maybe the point of it is just getting to that scene. For me, it makes the film worth watching. And I have to go through a bad story and uh, a very just misappropriated, I guess, is the best way to say it, because it's this cabal that is being used as a marriage. It's a, what do you call it?
Device. Yeah,
Yeah, as a plot device, really.
yeah.
That it's a plot device for a shittier story, and that's what's upsetting to me. But that moment when
Yeah. I mean,
Pollock does it, it's one of the best things that I've ever seen, because it's real, it's ugly, it's painful to watch, it's uncomfortable, and it's everything that the film should have been.
well, it's like there's a film called Scandal from the '90s. I remember being a teenager and I rented it and I thought it was really interesting and I haven't seen it probably since then, but it's about the Profumo scandal in England. It's John Hurt plays this doctor who um I think the character is gay, but he befriends or takes under his wing this like prostitute or and I'm probably butchering the plot, but it just came to mind.
Yeah,
And
Joanne Whaley, I believe.
he ends up like um basically like presenting her to like elites And she has an affair with I think his name was John Perfume. I don't remember, but I think if my memory serves me correctly, it was played by Ian McKellen, I think. So you already know the performances are good. And it created this huge fucking scandal. And I don't know if there are like orgy scenes or anything like that, but it's handled. It seems very um, the way it's handled is very realistic. And it's very like stories about Watergate where it's like as crazy as like the break-in and all that stuff is, and then you realize that there are ties. Those people are tied to JFK, and there's all this weird shit underground. But it's all handled very in a sober way, which in a way is like scarier. Um, there's stuff like that which hits harder because it has that element of reportage, um, even dramatized. And then on the other hand, you have someone like, I think when you look at elements of like David Lynch's films, which are very dreamlike, obviously, and there's an element to that in this journey of this character. There are also in David Lynch, there are elements of like characters and situations that do give off this vibe of these like even within industries or in movies or whatever, these elites where they're like, oh, the girl gets the part or whatever kind of thing. Remember that scene where they're in the boardroom? I think it's for Mulholland Drive, and it's just very creepy. Do you remember that?
Yeah, where she has to do the scene with that older, I think it's Chad Everett.
Well,
yeah.
There's that scene, but there's also this, and you know that guy was in the files.
Yeah.
But there's the scene where they're like having a board meeting, and the guy, I don't remember who plays it. I don't know if it's Badalamenti who actually plays it, the film score composer.
I remember that. Yeah. Okay.
And he's kind of like they're making a decision on who gets whatever role, and it gives it like almost this mafia quality to it. While in the backdrop of a dreamy nightmarishness of David Lynch, or even the cowboy, when the cowboy meets the dude at the corral, like at the top of the hill, and he's like basically threatening him. There, that has a weight to it, and it also has a strangeness. And I feel like someone like Lynch could have done this story, and it would have been all mixed up, but not necessarily reduced to like becoming like a pop cultural fucking reference point to conspiracies about Kubrick, which I think are fun. They're fun. Did he know? Was he trying to tell us? Was he killed 4 days later? Like I'm saying, like Avery goes on Joe Rogan and he's talking about like, yeah, no, they definitely kill babies. They definitely do this. They definitely do that. Versus was he a control freak who died of a heart attack? Just as shit was like the most stressful as he was finishing this fucking film. You know what I mean? Like, conspiracies are true again. They can be true, but
well, to be honest, I don't think he was killed because I don't think the film goes deep enough. I don't think the film is enough of a threat to have him killed over.
I mean, yeah,
that's my opinion.
Not only that,
it's like, so
you can also go, well, was he actually a collaborator who did films that didn't go far enough as a way of giving plausible deniability to say like, well, nah, that's just fucking movie shit. Like, of course it doesn't happen. What are you saying? It's like a fucking coup. You know what I mean? Because you can turn a conspiracy into anything. So it's kind of like, did he fake the moon landing? Did he not fake the moon landing? You know what I mean? Like, did he himself create the theory that he faked the moon landing? You know what I mean? Like, we can go anywhere.
Yeah.
At that point, so we have to kind of sift through all of this stuff. There's stuff about a New York Post reporter that like he's the guy who wrote the and if you zoom in or if you pause on the his name is Larry Salona. He wrote the article talking about the girl who ODs in the film. He's an actual New York Post reporter that was basically hired to write those articles, those prop articles for the film.
I didn't know that. Okay.
But there's talk about like, oh shit, he's the one who broke the story about Kubrick's death, and he was also on the Lolita Express. Interestingly, Kubrick did the Lolita adaptation, and or one of them, and this guy's supposed to have been on Epstein's plane, which was called the Lolita Express, and that's an actual thing that if you go to the fucking DOJ website and you fucking look through the files, because you can, that little there's a little mention of the conspiracy that's somehow in the files where someone emailed someone else about that. So I mean, there's again, the truth is stranger than fucking cinema. Like, you know, there's stories of, you know, in the movie at the end, the daughter, like, she kind of walks off in the direction of these two like men. So it's like, oh, is she giving them away? Are they giving her away to the men, or do they take her? Is this, you know, it can go in all kinds of different directions. Why not? Okay, during the masked ball scene, the person swinging that smoldering censer of incense, like, it's the Catholic Church. How can you not see it? Right?
Yeah.
Or no, actually, it was meant to make you think that it's the Catholic Church, but it's not. It's this group that's against the Catholic Church that planted that in the film to make you think that it is, so you could attack the Catholic Church because they really want to bring it down. Why not? Why not? You see? Don't you get it? And I'm making fun, but it becomes so fucking insane that we don't know what the fuck to believe.
Well,
and then everyone thinks they know what it's about.
It's definitely not the only conversation we can have about this film.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of layers to it. And it's in a weird way, it's a disappointment. Artistically, for me, it's a disappointment. Culturally, it forces questions. I don't know what Kubrick's intention was, but I do take a step back and say, wait a minute, there's a lot more going on here. And one thing we didn't even mention was Kubrick's abuse of his performers.
Yeah, Shelley Duvall.
And Shelley Duvall for in one instance, Vincent D'Onofrio in another, but also I've never really heard Nicole Kidman talk about the experience of making this film, and she's really objectified in this film. And there are moments when she's given a storyline, but I think she's really just there to build up the Tom Cruise role. And I think she's more of just a prop in this film. And I wonder, with Cruise and her relationship and Stanley Kubrick, was she or was she not just a prop in this film?
I mean, to a large extent, they're both props to him.
Yeah.
Because he was that kind of director.
Yeah.
And he gets this tag as like this like would-be truth teller who's hiding all this shit in his films. And I mean, could be, but
well, that's a discussion for another day and time, I guess. I don't know.
I mean, and to a degree, we've had it with with Room 237,
Yeah.
where that's the thing. Like we want to see what we want to see, and the conspiracies are there, but there are also conspiracies of ways of fucking distracting us from the fucking like what's actually going on, or at least we're looking at the hand that has a dick in it, and we're not looking at the hand that has the money in it, or the gun in it, or the finger on the fucking nuclear button on it, or whatever. And it's kind of like these things go hand in hand. And the sex, a lot of times, is just a device for power. You know, it's a way of gaining leverage. I mean, it's also, these people are fucking bored and rich and fucking they don't know how to be told no. There's also that. So, and rape to them it's metaphorically, they're doing it to they're doing it to the environment, and they're doing it to all of us, and they're doing it specifically to the actual people that they're doing it to, literally. So it's just like they're fucking everybody, basically. But in a sensationalized, audience, media saturated environment, we're only looking at like certain elements. And then even within the rape allegations, like certain ones get ignored, and then certain ones they don't. If it fits a certain level, a certain criteria, then it gets talked about. Maybe. In other countries, shit's happening. And in this one, it's not. And we know why. So some shit is hidden, and some shit is in plain sight. buymeacoffee.com/watch RickRamos. It's buymeacoffee.com/watch RickRamos. This one goes to Cornelius Burrows. You've been with us through the thick and the thin. Thank you for everyone who supports, donates, listens. Keep watching, keep sifting through the truth and through the bullshit, and we'll see you on the other side.